The glass exploded through the air. Silence shattered into thousands of sharp fragments. My heart pounded wildly, and the air burned with fear. What I saw next changed everything forever. The sound of glass crashing against the wall was the only thing that broke the silence in the room. Then came the echo of his voice, as cold and sharp as ice. "Stop calling me that!" Leonardo shouted, his face twisted with a rage that had nothing to do with what was happening. "It makes me sick. Every time you open your mouth and say husband, I feel like the value of my stocks drops 10 points." I stood beside the vanity table, my trembling hands nervously fidgeting with the knot of an imaginary tie, trying to understand what I had done wrong this time. The truth was, I had only asked him if he wanted me to fix the collar of his shirt before leaving for the gala. I said it naturally. "Come here, husband. Let me help you." Leonardo walked toward me. The $3,000 suit he wore looked perfect, flawless in every detail, but the man wearing it seemed to have a completely rotten soul. He grabbed me by the shoulders, and it was not a gesture of affection. It was the same restrained force he used when he wanted to intimidate his employees. "Look at yourself, Mariana," he said, forcing me to stare directly into the mirror. "Really look at yourself. You're wearing a department store dress, your hands are rough, and your hair, you don't even know how to style it like a woman who belongs at my level. You're a stain," he added with disgust, "a stain on my perfect record." "Leo, I tried," I whispered, feeling the tears beginning to burn in my eyes. "This dress was the best I could buy with the allowance you give me." "Allowance?" he repeated, letting out a dry, cruel laugh. "I give you enough to survive, Mariana, not enough to dress up like a queen." Then he leaned a little closer and spoke in a more serious tone. "Listen to me carefully. Tonight is the merger gala with Omnicorp Group, and the international press will be there. And the owner of Omnicorp will also attend, the great Mr. Black himself, a man no one has ever seen in person. If I close this deal tonight," he continued proudly, "I'll become the richest man in the entire hemisphere." Then he moved closer to my ear. His breath, smelling of mint and contempt, brushed against my skin. "So I absolutely forbid you from calling me husband in front of anyone. To the world, you are my personal assistant. Nothing more than an employee. Do you understand?" he asked harshly. "When you call me husband, it sounds like an insult. It's as if you're trying to drag me down into your mediocrity." At that moment, I felt something inside my chest break. It wasn't my heart. That had already been broken years ago. What shattered was hope. That foolish hope that the man I supported when he had nothing, the same man I gave my savings to so he could start his first company, would someday love me again. "Understood, Mr. Leonardo," I said quietly, lowering my head. "That's better," he replied with satisfaction. "Submissive. Invisible. Now wipe your face," he added coldly. "You look like a raccoon. And walk 3 steps behind me. I don't want anyone thinking we're together." With that, he walked out of the room without looking back, leaving me alone in front of the mirror, accompanied only by my own reflection and that pain that was already becoming far too familiar. Leonardo was convinced that I was just Mariana, a simple girl from a small town who had been lucky enough to marry someone like him. He believed my silence meant weakness. He was also certain that I had no one else in the world. But what Leonardo never knew, what his enormous arrogance simply would not allow him to imagine, was that the mysterious Mr. Black, the powerful owner of Omnicorp whom he was so desperate to impress that night, was no stranger to me. Mr. Black was my father. And I certainly was not a simple girl. My real name is Mariana Black. I am the secret heiress to the largest business empire in the world. I had changed my last name and chosen to live a modest life for one reason only. I wanted to find true love, someone who would love me for who I am, and not for my family's fortune. And then Leonardo appeared. I thought I had found the right person, but Leonardo failed the test in the cruelest way possible. That very night, he had asked me not to call him husband because, according to him, it was an insult to his prestige. Well, wish granted, because after tonight, Leonardo would never again have the privilege of calling himself my husband. But But before I tell you how the most luxurious gala of the year turned into the perfect stage for his complete downfall, let me ask you a small favor. If you are also against humiliation and believe that money can never buy true class, give this video a big like right now. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because what Mariana is about to do to Leonardo will truly leave you speechless. Believe me when I say this, revenge tastes much better when it's served in a $1,000 champagne glass. The limousine glided smoothly through the city streets, like a black shark moving through an ocean of lights. Inside the vehicle, the silence was so heavy it could almost be cut with a knife. Leonardo was focused on checking his phone, smiling every time he saw his stock prices rise. Meanwhile, I stared out the window in silence, counting the seconds until my plan would begin. "Remember," he suddenly said without even looking at me, 3 steps behind me. "If anyone asks who you are, you'll say you're my junior assistant. And if someone offers you a drink, refuse it. Tell them you don't drink during work hours. I don't want you embarrassing the firm." "Yes, sir," I replied calmly. Finally, we arrived at the convention palace. The red carpet had already been rolled out in front of the entrance. The moment Leonardo stepped out of the car, paparazzi flashes exploded around him like an electric storm. He smiled confidently, waved at the cameras, and posed like a professional. There was the public Leonardo, the charming businessman, the great visionary. I stepped out of the car a few seconds later. No one took pictures. The photographers lowered their cameras almost immediately, assuming I was just part of the event staff. Leonardo didn't even bother waiting for me. He simply walked toward the main entrance, leaving me behind to deal with the security guards alone. They questioned my presence until I showed them the assistant badge he had thrown at my face just minutes earlier. When I finally entered the ballroom, my first thought was that it looked like something from another world. Everything was an exaggerated display of luxury. Massive crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, chocolate fountains flowed endlessly, and the tables were decorated with golden details that shimmered beneath the lights. The elite of the entire country seemed to be gathered there that night. It didn't take me long to find Leonardo. He was standing right in the center of the ballroom, surrounded by people endlessly flattering him. And, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, standing beside him was her, Camilla, his business partner. A tall, stunning woman wearing an exclusive designer dress that probably cost more than the house where I grew up. She rested her hand on his chest, laughed dramatically at every one of his jokes, and looked at him with a kind of possessiveness that left little room for doubt. Everyone in that room knew they were lovers. Everyone. Except me, at least according to what they believed. I stayed silent in a corner near the kitchen, holding Leonardo's bag just as he had ordered me to before we entered. "Hey, you," I suddenly heard. A woman dripping in jewelry snapped her fingers in front of my face to get my attention. "My glass is empty. Bring me another." I looked at her calmly. I recognized her immediately. She was the wife of one of Leonardo's closest business partners. "I'm sorry, ma'am," I replied politely, "but I'm not a waitress." "Oh, really?" she said with a mocking smile. "Because judging by the clothes you're wearing, that's exactly what you look like." Then she tilted her head slightly and took a better look at me. "Oh, right. You're Leonardo's assistant, aren't you?" She paused before adding in a poisonous tone, "The wife he keeps hidden." "Oh, darling," she continued, "everyone here feels a little sorry for you. You should leave. Tonight, Camilla is the one shining." I felt my hands curl into fists, but I remained calm. "The night is just beginning," I replied quietly, "and many things that shine turn out to be nothing more than cheap glass in the end." The woman let out a short laugh and walked away through the crowd of guests. At that exact moment, the ballroom lights slowly began to dim. A single spotlight illuminated the stage. The master of ceremonies stepped onto the platform and took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "may we please have your attention for a moment? We are about to welcome our guest of honor tonight, the man who holds the future of this great merger in his hands. The president of Omnicorp." I noticed Leonardo stiffen immediately. He adjusted his jacket nervously and stepped slightly away from Camilla, trying to appear more professional in front of everyone. Despite his confident smile, I could see the sweat on his forehead. I knew something almost no one else in that room knew. If Leonardo failed to close the deal that night, the secret debts he had accumulated debts he had taken on to support his extravagant lifestyle and the expensive gifts he bought for Camilla would ultimately destroy him. "They say the president of Omnicorp never appears in public," someone whispered near me. "I heard he's sending a representative." "No," Leonardo said loudly, trying to sound confident. "He'll come. She knows my company is worth it." At that moment, the grand doors of the ballroom slowly opened. First came a group of 6 security men, moving with perfect precision. And in the middle of them appeared an older man, elegant and distinguished, walking with a silver cane. I recognized him instantly. It was my father, Don Alejandro Black. The moment he entered, the entire ballroom seemed to lose its breath. Leonardo reacted immediately. He hurried toward him with his hand extended and that sharp smile he always used whenever he wanted to impress someone important. "Mr. Black," he exclaimed enthusiastically. "It's an honor to meet you. I'm Leonardo Ferrer. We've exchanged a few emails. Welcome to my gala." My father stopped in front of him. He looked at the hand Leonardo had extended, but made no attempt whatsoever to shake it. Instead, he stared at him with such intense coldness that it felt as though the temperature in the entire ballroom had dropped. "Mr. Ferrer," my father said in a deep, firm voice, "I did not come to your gala to celebrate anything. I came to inspect." Leonardo swallowed hard and subtly withdrew his hand, trying to make sure no one noticed the awkward moment. "Of course, certainly," he replied with a nervous laugh. "You may inspect anything you wish. My assets, my figures, my reports, everything is in perfect order." "I'm not interested in your numbers, Ferrer," my father interrupted without raising his voice. "What interests me is your character. Omnicorp does not do business with just anyone." Then he calmly added, "We value integrity, loyalty, and family." Leonardo nodded quickly, almost desperately. "Family is the most important thing to me, Mr. Black," he said eagerly. "I'm a very family-oriented man." My father raised an eyebrow with obvious skepticism. "Oh, really? Then tell me, where is your wife?" Leonardo froze completely for a second. Camilla, standing beside him, stepped forward in an attempt to save the situation. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Black," she said with a flawless smile. "I'm Camilla, the company's vice president." Leonardo is a very private man when it comes to his personal life. Then she continued in a condescending tone. "His wife? Well, she doesn't feel very comfortable at these kinds of events. She's quite a simple woman. She prefers to stay at home." My father slowly scanned the ballroom with his eyes. "At home?" he repeated slowly. "So, as I understand it, she is here." At that moment, Leonardo broke into a cold sweat. His eyes scanned the ballroom anxiously until they found me standing in one of the corners. But there was no affection in his gaze. Only warning, only threat. He made an almost imperceptible gesture toward me, yet it was filled with fury. A clear message. "Don't move." "Ah, yes," Leonardo said, forcing out a tense laugh. "She came, of course. But she's not feeling very well. She's resting in the service area." Then he added, disguising his contempt as a joke, "You know how some women are? They get dizzy when there are too many important people around. To be honest, she's not really at the level for a conversation with someone like you." I felt a wave of hot fury rise into my throat. "The service area? Not at the level?" My father tightened his grip on his silver cane. "I want to meet her," he said authoritatively. "Now." Leonardo's face instantly turned pale. He had no escape. He crossed the ballroom toward where I was standing. When he reached me, he grabbed my arm so hard I could feel his nails digging into my skin. "Listen to me carefully, useless woman," he hissed through clenched teeth, filled with hatred. "You're going to walk with me, you're going to say hello, you're going to say you have a headache, and then you're getting out of here." His stare was pure threat. "If you say one stupid thing, if you embarrass me, I swear I'll throw you out on the street tonight." I looked him straight in the eyes. "Let go of me, Leonardo," I said calmly. "Walk." It was not a request. It was an order. Leonardo practically dragged me to the center of the ballroom, right in front of my father. Every eye in the room locked onto us. People examined every detail. My simple dress, my makeup-free face, my slouched posture after enduring so much mistreatment. To them, I was nothing more than a servant. Leonardo turned toward my father and gave him a carefully rehearsed fake smile. "Mr. Black, allow me to introduce Mariana, my wife. As I mentioned earlier, she isn't feeling very well tonight." My father looked at me. For a brief moment, I saw his eyes fill with tears as he noticed my condition, as he saw the sadness in the daughter he had raised like a princess and who was now being treated as though she were worthless. But that moment lasted only a second. Then his expression hardened. "Hello, Mariana," he said with strange formality. "Hello, sir," I replied, playing along just a little longer. Then my father asked the question. "Tell me something, Mariana. Does your husband treat you well?" At that moment, I felt Leonardo squeeze my waist tightly, a silent warning to choose my words carefully. "Oh yes," Leonardo quickly interrupted. "I treat her like a queen. I give her absolutely everything." Then he looked at me with a forced smile. "Isn't that right, darling?" I looked at him. Then I looked at Camilla, who was watching me with an expression full of mockery. I also looked at all the people around us, the same people who had laughed at me just minutes earlier. And then I remembered his own words. "Calling me husband feels like an insult." I took a deep breath. I pulled myself free from his grip, straightened my back, lifted my chin. "No," I said. My voice came out clear and firm, echoing through the entire ballroom. The silence was immediate. Leonardo stared at me in complete disbelief. "What did you say?" he whispered through clenched teeth. "I said no," I repeated, holding his gaze. "You do not treat me like a queen. You treat me like an employee. You humiliate me. You hide me. And today, you told me yourself that calling you husband was an insult to you." "She's delirious!" Leonardo suddenly shouted, turning toward my father. "Mr. Black, I apologize. She's sick. She has mental problems." Then he raised his voice. "Security! Get her out of here!" Before anyone could move, my father's voice thundered across the ballroom. "No one touches that woman!" Leonardo's security guards stopped instantly, intimidated by the authority in his voice. My father stepped forward. "Leonardo Ferrer," he said calmly, but with a firmness that sent chills through the room. "You said that being called husband was an insult." He paused briefly. "And you were right. It is an insult, but not for you. It's an insult to her." Leonardo frowned, confused and furious at the same time. "What are you talking about?" "She's nobody," he spat with contempt. "She's a starving nobody I picked up off the street." My father slightly raised his cane and pointed it at me. "That starving nobody," he said calmly, "owns all of this." Leonardo burst out laughing. Camilla started laughing too. "Owns it?" Leonardo mocked. "Please. She can't even afford a decent pair of shoes." Then my father turned toward me, and to the shock of everyone present, he bowed. "My daughter," he said proudly, "I believe it's time for you to take your rightful place." The revelation hit Leonardo like a freight train. "Daughter?" he muttered in disbelief. "What did you just say?" Without answering, I walked toward my father and embraced him. I felt his strength and protection around me. Then I stepped back and turned to face the crowd. I was no longer hunched over or silent, no longer the humiliated wife. Now I was Mariana Black. "My real name is Mariana Black," I said clearly. "I am the sole heiress of the Omnicorp Consortium." The ballroom fell into complete silence. I looked at Leonardo. "The money you used to start your company was not my waitress savings. It was part of my trust fund. I withdrew it to help you because I believed in you." Leonardo collapsed. His legs gave out beneath him, and he fell to his knees. "No, that can't be," he stammered. "Mariana, my love." "Don't call me my love," I replied coldly. "You yourself said you were a man of status and that I was beneath your level." I paused. "You were right. You are not at my level. You are far below it." I opened my purse, the same one he forced me to carry all night, and pulled out an envelope filled with documents. "I reviewed your company's accounts. While pretending to be your assistant, I had access to everything." I raised the papers. "You've been diverting company funds to pay for Camilla's apartment and falsifying financial reports." "That's a lie," Camilla screamed. I didn't know anything. Yes, you did, I replied calmly, and I have the receipts. Then I looked at my father. Dad, what's the decision about the merger? My father looked at Leonardo, trembling on the floor. The merger is canceled. Omnicorp does not do business with scammers or with men who abuse their wives. Then he added, furthermore, since the initial investment came from your money and you never signed away your ownership rights, technically, you are the majority shareholder of Ferrer Holdings. Leonardo lifted his head in panic. What does that mean? I stared at him coldly. It means you're fired. No, he screamed. It's my company. It's my life. His voice broke. Mariana, please. It was the stress. I love you. We can be kings of the world. Forgive me. I stepped closer to him and removed the cheap ring he had given me while buying diamonds for Camilla. You asked me not to call you husband because it lowered your value. I looked at him one last time. Well, Leonardo, now you're worth nothing. I let the ring fall to the floor. Security, I ordered. Remove this intruder from my party. The guards did not hesitate. They grabbed him by the arms. Mariana, he screamed desperately. I'm your husband. I looked at him calmly. Not anymore. And they began dragging him toward the exit. Leonardo kept screaming as they took him away. He cried, struggled, even kicked at the floor, but the guards never let go. Camilla tried to slip away through the crowd, but my father gave a signal and 2 police officers intercepted her. Miss Camilla, one officer said, there is a warrant for your arrest for corporate fraud and money laundering. He forced me, she screamed as they placed handcuffs on her wrists. The ballroom erupted into applause. The same people who had ignored me earlier were now celebrating my courage. My father offered me his arm. Shall we go, Madam President? Let's go, Dad, I said, smiling for the first time that night. I'm hungry. I want a hamburger. We walked out with our heads held high, leaving behind the fake luxury, the lies, and the man who never realized the diamond he had at home. Leonardo was prosecuted. He lost his company, his reputation, and his freedom. He was sentenced to 10 years for fraud, while I donated a large portion of his confiscated fortune to foundations that support women entrepreneurs. Camilla lost everything and had to start over from nothing, forever marked by the scandal. I took control of Omnicorp alongside my father. I did not remarry anytime soon, and I learned that being alone is better than being with someone who makes you feel alone. Today, in a boardroom, no one looks down on me anymore. And if someone judges my simple appearance, I simply smile. True power never needs to shout. Leonardo wanted me to stop calling him husband because he felt insulted by it. In the end, the only insult was his own existence.